It's about Pfizer's failure to speak truthfully to the public when marketing its vaccine. Pfizer made multiple misleading and deceptive statements. And although the vaccine manufacturers had immunity given by the federal government for injury lawsuits brought by people who took their vaccines, they do not have protection, and they did not have the right to make misleading statements when marketing their products.
So that's Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach on Wake Up America. He joined us earlier on Newsmax, speaking with Rob and Charla, talking about his state's lawsuit against pharmaceutical giant Pfizer. So the suit accuses the company of misleading the American public about its COVID vaccine, hiding the alleged risks, and making alleged false claims about its effectiveness at the height of the pandemic. Kobach says Kansas is the first of 5 states set to file suit against Pfizer. So what is going to come out of these lawsuits? Legal panels here to weigh in. Dwayne Cates and Barack Lurie are both attorneys, and they're here with me live. So, Dwayne, let's dive into this lawsuit. Pfizer is accused of a number of things, according to the Kansas AG, saying its COVID-19 vaccine was safe, even though it knew its COVID-19 vaccine was connected to serious adverse events, including myocarditis and pericarditis, failed pregnancies, and deaths. Pfizer said its COVID-19 vaccine was effective, even though it knew its COVID-19 vaccine waned over time, and did not protect against COVID-19 variants. Pfizer concealed this critical effectiveness information from the public. Dwayne, talk to me about the strength of what's at the heart of this lawsuit.
Well, I read the lawsuit this morning, a little light reading this morning, and it's very specific, the things that they did. And some of the things that they did were pretty horrible. I think they've got a great legal theory that, because they do have immunity from the federal government for adverse reactions, but that doesn't give them the right to lie about the vaccine. And, and it was during a time of COVID where it was, we're going to lie to you for your own good. You don't need to know about these adverse effects because we want you to take the vaccine. And then on top of that, Pfizer's CEO made a big stock move that made him $4 or $5 million, at the time it got approved. So they had a lot riding on this, and they just outright misled the public. I mean, that lawsuit's shocking.
Yeah, so Pfizer did release a statement in response. We wanted to share it, writing, the representations made by Pfizer about its COVID-19 vaccine have been accurate and science-based. But Barack, you've got to think back. Of course, what we know now is so different than what we experienced in 2020. But there was a lot of desperation, doing anything you could to protect yourself against this unknown virus. If you weren't a vaccine expert yourself, perhaps you were looking to this vaccine company for advice, and they promised it was safe and effective. So, Barack, tell me about how you're viewing this lawsuit here. It looks like we don't have Barack anymore. So, Dwayne, but just back to you. Wanted to get your thoughts there.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, some of the things they did were, they made statements that the vaccine was effective for people that had already had COVID, when in fact none of this. They didn't test anybody. I mean, you were precluded from the trials if you had previously had COVID. So that was just an outright blatant lie. And I believe that the states are going to get them on their consumer fraud statutes.
In November, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton had filed a similar lawsuit. And as we said, Kobach says 4 more states are expected to join Kansas in its fight against COVID, against Pfizer here. So, Dwayne, this is a multi-billion-dollar company here. They've got all the money in the world to fight these lawsuits here. Do you ever see any sort of recognition by Pfizer about these legitimate concerns Americans have?
Most likely this is going to end in some sort of settlement with a confidentiality agreement so that, the truth never hits the light of day. I'm hoping that some states have the fortitude to press forward, although it's going to be very expensive, and Pfizer will drag this out. I mean, this will be a 4 or 5 year lawsuit, and they'll make it as expensive as possible. That's their legal strategy, is to run the other side out of money.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Dwayne Cates, thank you so much for coming on today. Appreciate your analysis.
Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome.